What's up, YouTube? Samuel here, and today we're going to talk about some of the important things that um, I think are discussed regarding the ACT and SAT. And among these important things, I think there are certain misconceptions or certain myths that are spread. Um, and so I'll touch on just a couple of them and try to tie everything together to why am I making these videos. So let's get started. So one thing that I would hear a lot when I was in high school and preparing for the ACT or SAT is that students would talk about which tests were harder and when, and a lot of times they'd say, well, it's easier in the winter or it's easier in the summer because less seniors take it then, or whatever. For whatever reason, there was this belief that from in one season or one year the test would be easier. And actually, there are actually pretty advanced statistical methods that the test writers for both the ACT and SAT use to measure how the test difficulties vary, and they're very consistent from year to year. And even in the case in which one test may be slightly harder or easier, there are ways in which they can control for how these tests are scored. So on that end, I would definitely put those fears to rest. The tests are very consistent from season to season or year to year. And then another thing I tend to hear when it comes to test taking strategy is that for these multiple choice questions, of course, we're dealing with the ACT and SAT, so they're multiple choice, unless you're dealing with the essay portion. But for the multiple choice, that two of the choices would be close. This is actually not true. There are a few instances in which this is true. In very specific contexts, for instance, the rhetorical skills portion of the ACT English, or sometimes the ACT Science. But I would say 98% of the time, the correct answer is blatantly true. And what I mean by that is, you have to understand that these tests are not hard in the sense that they go very deep or very rigorous. They're hard in the sense that they cover a lot of material. So the key is to be able to expose yourself to a wide breadth of material, such that when you see the correct answer, it is spot on, and you have no doubt as to your answer selection. Again, there are situations in which there's some subjectivity. When we talk about the reading, sometimes the questions can get a little bit dicey, but again, the correct answer should stand out to you. And if it's not, then there's a good chance you're probably going to miss the question. So it's one of those situations where you either know it or you don't. And that really brings us to one major tip. And it may sound kind of silly, it may sound straightforward, trivial, but practice. So practice is really what makes perfect, as they say. I know that sounds cliche, but what's important is not just practicing, but practicing meaningfully. And so in this YouTube channel, we're going to try to block things into distinct categories or bundles of questions. And in so doing, what you'll find is that these will appear on the test, and you will guarantee success in that context. So when you can group things accordingly, it really streamlines your studying process. And of course, I know as a high school student, you have other obligations. So studying under a time constraint of, say, 1 month, 2 months, and catering your strategy accordingly can really help. So that's another thing that I'm going to try to do in upcoming videos is cater to specific scenarios. Say you have 2 weeks left to study. Well, then what should you focus on? Of course, again, that really that would really depend on the student and what your strengths are, but there are certain qualities that you would need across the board. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, any suggestions, feel free to let me know. Thank you.